And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Escape Tales: Children of Wyrmwoods. Now, this is the third in a series of escape room games that's been put out by Board and Dice. Now, I want to be really clear that even though this is a third in a series, they're all very different from each other. You don't need to play one over the other. The series is usually fairly dark thematically. There is definitely the first one. I mean, you are entering the psyche of your daughter in a coma to rescue her from the demons that are invading that because your wife committed suicide. That's the theme of the first one. Now, this one, the theme is also sort of dark. I didn't find it to be tremendously as much. It's a fantasy world where people are dreaming, and I can't really tell you much more than that without spoiling it. I didn't find it to be as overwhelmingly dark as the first two actually are. But this one is a fantasy setting. This one also diverges from the first two in how it works. Now, if you never played any, let's take a look at how the game works, and then we'll come back. So when we look at the components of the game, we have 3 storybooks, we have a map, we have a huge deck of cards here that are numbered from Z001 all the way down to, I don't know, like 190 or something like that. You also have a bunch of these location cards that are also numbered that you'll have set to the side. And then you'll have some of these cards that start with an R and some cards that start with an F. So F stands for fatigue, and these cards will all come into play over the course of the game. You'll play the game in order. You'll start with storybook 1, then 2, then 3, and in between each book is a natural save progression if you want to. Now, when you read the storybook, you'll open the first one. There's a prologue, and at the end it will tell you to read a paragraph. In this book are plenty of paragraphs, and it tells you on the side which paragraphs are there. You go there and read that paragraph. Many of these paragraphs will tell you to take a specific card. Now, this is not really a spoiler because this is the very first card you're going to get over the course of the game, but this is your character, Gilbert. He has characteristics stamina, spirit, sanity, and charisma. And as the game goes by, it's possible for you to get things that will make your stats go up or down. Now, that's one of many cards you'll find. You'll find all sorts of cards. Here's a random card. Will you find it or not? Over the course of the game. And you're going to use these cards to do puzzles. You're also going to be finding location cards. So like at the very beginning of the game, you're going to find this door here. And that's the first puzzle, is opening that door. And many times you also find yourself at a location. And then what you're going to be doing is placing dots on different parts of the location that you'll be visiting. There will be a corresponding card in the small card deck for each location, and when you go to the different spots in that location, it will tell you what paragraphs to read. Progressing in the story is done by these paragraphs, but it's also done by the app. The app here is actually, it's not really an app, it's a computer website, and this happens to be on my iPad. But when you come across a puzzle, you'll see a symbol for puzzle. So let's say I see this puzzle symbol here. It's asking for an answer. I can always click on this needed cards, and that right there, you can see it just says that I need 2 puzzle cards. So if I only have one, I know that that's all I can do for that one. Also, I don't have enough to solve the puzzle. Also, there's a hint system where I can press this button to take a hint, and you can go all the way down to even where you get the answers. That's one part of the app. You're not going to see all these puzzles over the course of the game, but you'll see a lot of them as you go through. You also have this button here that says Combine Cards. When this happens, you will be able to take the number of 2 cards and combine them together. So each card has a number, so you can see it here, you can see it up in the corner. So I could, for example, say I'm going to combine Gilbert and these weird shroom things that I found. So that's 055. So I would type that in there, check it, and it just says nope. And I knew that would happen. That's why I showed it to you. But sometimes you might find, for example, let's say you found water and fire, and if you combine them, you might put the fire out. You can combine any cards you want. When you combine a card with Gilbert, he will often give you information that he knows about that card. So combining the cards is a pretty useful thing. If you're stuck in the game, sometimes you need to combine cards to figure out what to do next. So that's pretty much it. As you solve puzzles, you'll go farther, open locations, do things in those locations. You'll put these tokens there, but you only have so many tokens. If you run out of tokens, you'll be forced to either take some relaxation cards or some fatigue cards, which are likely bad for you. But you're going to progress through the game. You'll get through the first book, which is a break in the story, go to the second book, and then finally the third book, where you will find one of many of the different endings to the game, hopefully. And that ending is going to be often decided by different choices that you've made throughout the game. Component-wise, everything fits in this box. The rule book, this is a quick way to jump to the app on in there. The rule book is pretty self-explanatory. The app itself I found to be pretty useful. I like that, they'll tell you what to do with each puzzle and you put the answer in, etc. This needed cards hint system works really well. My only complaint would be with the combined cards, there was no hints. So you could just, of course, force it through to all the different things that you can do, but I wish there was more of that. The artwork on the cards is fine. You're going to find all sorts of cool things. I'm trying not to spoil anything here over the course of it and looking at it. And, then other than that, you get some green tokens. Yeah, it's decent components. Now, this is a really long game, folks. We're talking, it says like 7 hours of content in here. There's a lot of stuff in this game. I played it solo. And I think I might have had more fun if I had played it with somebody else to just talk through the puzzles with, but it can be played through solo. There is a lot of puzzles. In fact, I want to say there was about this many cards that I never even saw. You're not going to see everything in this game. At one point, I had to escape out of something somewhere, and I escaped out a different way. I went back later on and looked, and I could have done something different to get out, and both those options would have changed how things worked. And at the end of this game, there's some free-form stuff going on, which I really can't explain again without spoiling it, but you're going to be going around and searching in this fantasy land to some degree. Now, the puzzles in the game. So there's a lot of puzzles in this game. I think we saw here, when I pull this up here, it looks to me like there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 40 puzzles. So 40 fairly big puzzles. And like I said, you're not going to see all of them. But to get to these puzzles, you're going to be moving around. And that's just some of the puzzles. Technically, combining things is another puzzle. So let's talk about the combining. Combining in this game, you're just going to take these things as you find them and put them together. Sometimes it's pretty obvious. Oh, I found a fishing hook and a string. I should put those together with that pole to make a fishing rod. That's not one of the things. But that's kind of that. Sometimes they could punish you. Oh, I have a mouse and a cat. I'll combine them. The cat eats the mouse. Now you don't have the mouse anymore. Things like that can happen. But I did sit there and type them in. I will say that combining the things here is very similar to another popular series of games out there called Unlock. Here it was slightly more tedious because I had to type in the 3 numbers each time. And so a lot of times I'm combining things with Gilbert, type in his number, nope. Okay, type in this number, and I felt that to be, like I said, I wish there was a little bit cleaner of a system, and I also wish there was a hint system, because I knew at one point there must be something. I got stuck, and I said there must be something I need to combine that I haven't done yet, but I didn't know what to do. I finally figured it out through brute force, just combining everything, and I was like, oh, those two things combine. There was also a section of the game that I thought would be tremendously cool and was less so. Now, the game is weird. The theme is weird. There's weird stuff that happens. The puzzles are fairly straightforward, and while I like it a lot, spoiler, I like this game. I think it's really cool. I didn't find many puzzles in here where I was like, ooh, that's clever. I haven't seen it before. No, there are variations on different puzzles I've seen. Now, this is going to happen when you play a lot of escape room games, but usually when I play an escape room game, there's a puzzle where I'm like, ho, that was clever. I didn't really find that here. To me, here, the clever part was The story is really ingrained. I mean, all the escape tales, the story is really strong. The story is ingrained in this pretty strongly, and that combining thing is fun, even if it is kind of copying the Unlock series. Altogether, I enjoyed this a lot. It's a ton of escape room. You know, most escape rooms you get are 1 hour. This one is very long, and technically it's replayable. I mean, you'll know some of the puzzles when you go through the second time, but you can go through different ways. They say there's, I think, 60 different endings, but if you're like, well, I don't want to play it 60 times, I get it, but happily when you do get to the end, they're like, here's the endings you got. Would you like to see the other endings you could have gotten? And you're like, oh, okay, and you can just go look at them. I read like 4 or 5 of them, then I was like, yeah, I'm good. You know, I didn't want to read every possible ending. But there you go. It's definitely different than the other escape tales. I think if you like the other ones, you'll also like this one. But if you don't like the other ones, or maybe you were turned off by the very dark themes, I think this one's, the theme to me is as dark as, ooh, there's zombies chasing you. That's the equivalency of the horror here. But like I said, this for bang for your buck, the escape tales are some of the best ones out there for the stuff that's in them. So check it out, Escape Tales, Children of the Wyrmwoods. Dice Tower Judgment approved.